Bidi, Portugal, September 22, 2019. Part 1. Well, Bidi's with you. And he says hello. All. Hello. Well, if you don't mind, we'll start letting the questions and answers unfold spontaneously. In order to free what still seems to you to obstruct your history, your person, from the truth that you are. Who wants to start expressing themselves, questioning, testifying? We can begin. Silence. Don't be afraid. Sister, there is someone coming. She wants to give a testimony. So we listen. Sister, in the AYOUN resonance, I felt an acceleration of the cells and a feeling that all the cells of the body had entered into a boiling state. I had a feeling that the body was going into convulsions. It lasted 5 to 10 minutes and then I slept quietly. But when the cells accelerated, the body hurt me. I have a question about that. If we invoke the AYOUN resonance for a person who resonates with it, if that person is afraid, if that person is in a different state and he or she gets scared, in this situation, that person's fear can block AYOUN's entry. Not at all. Fear itself can only be dissolved by the intelligence of the light. I would even say that for those of you who have not lived anything at the level of perceptions, at the level of vibrations, I would say that this fear of the void or the unknown, today, inevitably leads you to the truth. In this particular case, AYOUN resonances, on the contrary, the fear of the unknown is shattered from the next instant by the revelation of who you are. Do not be alarmed by any fear, any reluctance. Because today, everything is a pretext and an opportunity to discover the truth. Whether it is through the suffering of the body, through fear of the unknown, through inner questioning, fear can no longer be opposed to the truth. There is an epidemic that is not dependent on your character or your fears, and that cannot be contained or blocked by any part of the person. Even the excess mind can only be consumed, certainly with some discomfort, but inevitably leads to the discovery of the truth. This also means that within this dream, the good news is present, as AYOUN says, whether you recognize it or not. Everything is done automatically, by the grace and evidence of the truth. There's nothing you can do about it. You can no longer oppose it. It is your own nature. There is no longer any positioning of the person that can restrain the truth. I would go even further. I would say that whatever happens in you, around you, under any circumstances, can only lead to the discovery of the truth. Everything is only a pretext within the theater scene, for the final scene. It is a great joy. Whatever the person's fear, I would say that this fear is a springboard for leaping into the unknown and rejoicing. It's a big celebration. Do not rely on any appearance, on anything other than silence, to reveal, above your fears, any misunderstandings, the truth, which is there for everyone. With the same intensity, the same regularity. The discovery is the same for everyone. You can only recognize yourself no matter what your character says or shouts. Everything is only a pretext, created by the intelligence of the light, to make you rediscover freedom and evidence. You don't have to do anything. You have nothing to look for. You just have to stay calm, embrace, let what is happening go through. Stop at nothing, let the unfolding of the truth unfold. There's nothing you can do about it, either way. Silence, the immobility of thoughts, words, the fact of remaining still whatever happens, allows the truth to reveal itself. And as has been said, you can only recognize yourself, to live the evidence. Whatever your head says and whatever your body says. The principle of accepting what I have just said creates the optimal conditions for living what is. This is done without you, or even thanks to you. Stay calm and life will take over your life, without difficulty, with more and more evidence, certainty and joy. Whatever your moans, whatever the suffering, whatever the history. As AYOUN said, today, there are no other prerequisites than to let it be what it is, whatever you think. And that's enough. The simpler you are, the more you are in this acceptance. That's enough. Things are extremely simple no matter how difficult it may seem. Let life unfold and you will become lighter and lighter, more and more joyful, without reason, without pretext and without purpose. You'll then see that nothing matters anymore. That everything you could care about, in any field, can no longer be an obstacle. Resistance, conscious or unconscious, induces the same consumption of illusion and revelation of who you are even before the game of form and the game of creation. The usual rules of emotions, of the mind, in short, everything that concerns the person, can in no way be opposed to the truth. Once again, the intelligence of the light, which you are, does not care about the gestures of the person, the desires of the person or the last beliefs. It is your ability to remain calm, possibly placing yourself in the observer. You have nothing to do. Just let being and non-being appear on the stage and that's it. There is no longer any binary logic in the face of truth. You're all living it. From now on, you must accept it, in order to verify by yourself that whatever appears in your life, it is only the eruption of life and liberty. Do not judge yourself, do not seek to analyze, do not seek to understand, you can only live it, and by living it you understand it. All the rest are only habits of functioning of the mind, resulting from confinement. The more you are in this attitude, in this embracing posture, the more you will notice, very quickly, that it is the truth that is being revealed and that you are finding. It had always been there, we had simply forgotten it collectively. But all this ends. The consummation of the world within all its illusions is neither drama nor a suffering, but a great joy. Only the ego, habits can instill fears, questions, which, as soon as you let them pass through you without stopping them, dissolve themselves, without you. There is no effort to be made. There is no work to be done. There's nothing to explain, just to experience it. You can only see that, no matter what you think about it right now. It is the same scenario in countless forms that is unfolding for everyone and now, on the entire theater stage, in this world and in all worlds. Acceptance reveals the truth, everything else is superfluous, useless and cumbersome. This is how you realize the sacrifice and at the same time, the resurrection, and discover the truth. You're the world, you're the dream, you're the source, you're the whole of creation. We are all one and behind this one, there is no one. It is done by itself. You cannot think about it, you cannot explain it, you can only see it. Everything else is only a pretext, amusement and action of the intelligence of the light which is only joy. As has been said, it is impossible not to recognize yourself, not to find yourself, no matter what happens to you. And when you observe the theater scene, you can only notice an increasingly apparent collective awakening. I believe that you have even created a certain number of words and concepts, at least in the West, that allow you to position yourself in the ultimate questioning, what is life, what is truth? It takes precedence and ascendancy over everything else. The more quiet you are, in this embracing position, in this inner disposition, you have nothing else to do. As long as you think you have something to do, it will always only concern the illusory character. Agape, the truth, is the only thing that is real. Some of you, moreover, in many different ways, are living this truth. The ultimate attachments, the ultimate conditioning, the ultimate remnants of spiritual fraud fall by themselves, without you. Think carefully because you will soon realize that any effort, in relation to the truth, creates suffering. While any relaxation, in relation to the truth, which is perhaps still unknown to you, literally secretes joy. You will have the opportunity to check it immediately, in any event, in your life. It is only the life and intelligence of the light that are at work, in action, without you. Be lazy, be indifferent to what is happening, not to deny it, not to avoid it but to create the most suitable conditions for living who you are. It seems so simple that the person will do everything to try to justify that it cannot be possible. This is in line with what you call absolute faith, in no story, but in the bare truth. And that's all. Are there any other questions or testimonies? Silence. It should be pointed out to the listeners that the first testimony we heard was the report of the agape network resonance, as Ekpa said, that you made last night. In relation to this, precisely, do you have any other testimonies of agape resonance experience? For this will encourage the brothers and sisters who are listening, who are hearing, to be seeking these agape resonances, which I would like to point out, you have realized one on top of the other, even if you were not yet living the truth. What Ebba calls technique without technique, or rather, I believe, practice without practice, is accessible to everyone regardless of what they think. Consider it as a game and that's all, and you'll love it. So any other testimonies on this agape resonance you made? At the time or this morning, what you have lived through, or the state in which you feel? Sister, there is a question. We're listening. Sister, hello Bidi. Thank you very much on behalf of all of us for honoring us with your presence in Portugal. But I am also very honored to have you here. It's mutual. Sister, thank you. I have a testimony and a question if that's possible. In relation to agape resonance, a few months ago I practiced and I would like to share with everyone that there is an automation process that you end up waking up and going to bed and instantly you say agape 3 times. Without protocol or ritual. It's something like breathing. That's my experience. That's what happens with me. It's almost like bathing in the morning, brushing your teeth, not thinking, just feeling. It's instantaneous and natural. So, the result of our lives is that, regardless of the difficulties that the person still has to transcend, the intelligence of light gains each time more space and each time less limited by our fluid personality, and we also learn to trust more. Because the great difficulty, without the habits we have to control, and for that reason many times we prevent the flow of light, the intelligence of light. By pronouncing agape, as something that comes from the heart, spontaneously, believe me, it is a flow and an ease and relief of pressure. Like it or not, our personality is still subject to that. This is a testimony I wanted to share with you. I am the most anti-ritual person and this is not a ritual, it is almost like a breath that we have without realizing it. My question, the question of my person, because I know that this question comes from the person. We arrived here this weekend, we all felt that we would be burned by the fire, which also means that the process of resurrection is coming, and of which my humility and ignorance, I feel that the more the resurrection shows itself, the greater the sacrifices, or that inevitably we are subjected. I have a lot of trouble keeping this peace sometimes because my personality is a little weird. And in that sense, I am open to getting slapped, laughs, and I'd like you to help me. How can we achieve this tranquility that is so fundamental? Precisely, no, precisely, not unfortunately. Sister, that's the Bidi question. The question is the answer. Laughs. It is precisely this which, as you say, seems to disturb the character, which will create stability. It is the very game of light in what has been called this face-to-face between the character's puppet and the truth that you are, which will make you die in a great burst of laughter as a person. Here again, it is enough to accept, to consider that it is only a game and that the more you will be uncomfortable, which is the case for everyone, when you live agape, it is literally unbearable to see this character joking continue his cinema. That's the resolution. That's why I'm telling you that the question is the answer, until you laugh at yourself, at that monkey that spins around all by itself. But today you are no longer identified with that, because you wonder about the difference between agape you live, and that the character, who, as soon as he reappears, bothers you. It's just lighting. It is the lighting that consumes. I answer you. Remain calm, do not fight. Do not oppose yourself, whatever the gestures of your puppet character. Let it express itself, let it refuse, it will be consumed even more quickly by what had been called the friction fire between the vital fire and the igneous fire. The more you accept that you can't control anything and that what is what must be for you, will reinforce acceptance and inevitably leads to self-combustion. This self-combustion will come on its own and will consume the character's residual elements, which are effectively, as you say, seen as annoying. The question does not call for an answer on how to get rid of it, but it is precisely the fact of living it, of seeing it, that is the solution. So, precisely today, if it seems to you that you live in superposition, or at various times of the day, to pass into a gap in the character, illuminates more and more the illusion and leaves more and more room for what is true. I repeat, it is done without you. If you try to correct by will, you will find that you can do nothing about it, but if you accept a gap, not only in the moments when you are available, but in those moments, you will see that it will move away and dissolve in the ether. This is how the truth is realized in the whole of humanity. There is indeed, for the character, sometimes a certain form of violence, physical, mental, emotional, a suffering, but this suffering is resultary. It leads you in the same way as a gate to the truth. Everything is only a pretext to write the word end for everyone. It will end with a loud laugh, even if you cry today. But this intolerable side, because it really is, for the one who has lived even for 1 minute agape, and who sees this character still present, is the resolution, from the moment you stand still. The hardest part is that. It's to stay still. You all know that. We have all lived it. It is very difficult for the character, for the one who believes he is in spiritual search, to accept that there is nothing to look for. It is intolerable for the ego, it is intolerable for history, but it is precisely this discomfort, this suffering, that creates the right conditions, the most just for each of you. Everything is in its right place. And especially when you think it's not where he belongs. That's exactly where it's in the right place. When you can no longer explain, when you are angry, when you are misunderstood, when you no longer understand anything, then the whole place is free for the truth. It is exactly the opposite of personal development and spirituality. Truth does not need spirituality, does not need a world, does not need form, does not need energy, does not need a scenario and, above all, does not need you. If you can accept this, which may indeed seem absurd to the person, that you make yourself totally available, and that you are as close as possible to the truth. I said when I was incarnate, that my words could not fail. I've already had a chance to say that. My words were at your epoch. They were for you. Many of you have discovered who I was. What I said decades ago were milestones, benchmarks, that were tabled very precisely for the period. Like what you call Christ, more than 2,000 years ago, who came to set a milestone, a landmark within the theater scene, at which you could easily, when the time comes, provide you with a few supports to sit down to the truth. The hardest thing, I repeat, is to accept and understand that you can do nothing or decide, because you wrote the script yourself. As has been said, you yourselves have created oblivion in order to put an end to oblivion, to put an end to the dream, to the nightmare and to rediscover the truth. It's your scenario. Even when you say it is not possible, I have never decided that, I have never wanted such a disease or such a mental, it is precisely in this denial that what you have decided is found. It is not a question of judging yourself, but simply of accepting this fact and that's all. This does not, of course, prevent you, in a second step, from taking care of this body with what is available on the theater stage. It is an inner attitude, what I called a few years ago, the point of view, which is the lighting and which is the key. Do not judge yourself, do not condemn yourself. Just accept it and then you'll see what happens. The commander said to put love in front, love behind, love on the left, love on the right, love on the top, love on the bottom and love everywhere. Don't worry about the rest. At first, if you have this attitude and conduct, you will very quickly notice the evidence and presence of truth and you will laugh. Really. Don't curb the character, let him play his own game. It is much more than the refutation or to be the witness or the observer, it is the immobility that allows you to discover the source of life, the source of movement and that allows you to no longer be identified with this monkey character. Punchy is made for laughter. Stick blows are not true. It's a game. That's how you are the spectator of your own scenario. By accepting this, you write the world end. You've already lived it. You forgot it. That is exactly what is happening. Ever told you last year that the binary matrix has given way to the crystalline matrix that ends every matrix and leaves only the naked truth. The character will live what he has to live, but you will no longer be fooled. Did you understand that your question is the answer? Sister: yes, Bidi, and I thank you. Let's keep going. Sister: there is another question. Hello Bidi. Hello. Sister: I will tell you what happened for me last night. Laughs because the translator has just realized that she has repeated in French and not in Portuguese. Sister: I was asleep and I felt that I was moving a lot. I turned around a lot, then to the right, then to the left, then to the right, then to the left. But that's not in French. Sister: no, it's in Portuguese, but she speaks French and I speak Portuguese. Ah, sorry. I was listening to you but not her. So let's do it again. Laughs. Sister translator: do it again, do it again. I remind you that most often in the whole process of the speakers, everything is done to hear the one on the right, which is why questions are repeated even when it is the same language by the one on the speaker's right. So you have to rehearse in French too. Laughs. Sister translator: but I don't need to repeat in French because she speaks French. But I can't hear you, except for you. Sister translator: ah. All right, all right. You're a translator, but because of your location, you are what we call the router. Sister translator: yes, I'm fine, okay. There is a contact, a communication in my radiance, that is, around me. Of course, in some cases, in some circumstances, in some settings of my come-in, it is possible for me to hear. But for an easier process, we adjust the channels to the people who are on the left and right. So, I'm listening. Sister: hello Bidi. I'm going to tell you what happened to me last night with the resonance. Sister translator: do you hear what she is saying or do I have to repeat it? She's in the atmosphere, so it's perfect. Sister translator: okay, thank you. You said I was asleep. Sister: I was asleep, by the way, in the regard, before let you continue, if I was asleep, who knows you were? Who says that? Sister: my person. No. Since your person, was asleep. Laughs. Sister: my person was asleep, and who knows you were? Who knew about it? Sister: oh yes, me. Ah. Sister: so I could see that I was gesticulating from left to right. There were things, I felt something spinning a little in my stomach, and then it itched a little here and there, everywhere, and I didn't want to wake up. And then since it bothered me so much, well, I decided to wake up. I woke up in my bed. Usually, when you sleep, it's in a bed. Laughs. Sister: and then I felt more the sensations, I felt more the things that were happening, and I had a big sting in one of the toes, the big toe. I don't know if it's the left or the right anymore. And then some punctures too, a puncture in the right arm. Besides, that's what I remember. And so I let it happen and then I calmed down and went back to sleep. There you go. Thank you for the testing money. That calls for a comment. Many of you, even regardless of a gape, sleep or waking state, feel like these stings, heat, on your feet, that's where. But on the big toe, left or right, it indicates something much more important. It is the loosening of the bond and identification with this mental body. I would remind you, historically, that Buddha came out through his big toe. It is a reality. That's why I'd asked you before even knew it, when you say I was asleep and you are perfectly aware of it in what you described, when you say I am asleep. Who is that talking? Sister: I knew I was asleep. Yes. But who knew you were? Since your person and your body were. Sister: Well, me. But I don't know, me, but not me. Laughs. That's it, that's it. I am not I am the truth. You're as you expressed it perfectly, lucid during sleep. This corresponds exactly to what I explained in 2012 on the Chirya consciousness. Realize what I'm saying. When you say I was sleeping, the body is lying a priori in a bed. And what perceived it was not the I, he was asleep, it was me, not you. So it's, the observer is the witness. And you really came out at that moment through the stings, you came out through your big toe, in a naked consciousness, not located to this body, not identified to this body, and which is the undeniable proof of the relaxation of identification, of the false identification to this body and to this mind. You have formal proof in the words you use that you are not this body. You're aware that, as you say, I was asleep, and I felt that. Who sensed it? Not the body even if it passes through the body. Not the ego, there is no ego when you sleep, it seems to me. I explained it. So realize through what I say to you, when you express these words, even if it didn't become clear to you right away, that you are not the I who was sleeping, you are not that character. It is the observer, the spectator, the witness who experiences this. Do you understand? Sister, I think so. Well, that's it. Laughs, everything is solved. You will believe less and less your character and your story. That's how, at the same time, you're the observer, that's how you release identification, as I said, and that's how you'll live that there's no one, that there's not even a witness and an observer. Realize and be aware that the simple words we use reflect the truth. But most of the time, we don't pay attention to it. Thank you for your testimony. Sister, I wanted to say something else that is not about resonance. Jean-Luc told us that karma, about karma, that we go through cycles all the time. By? Sister, by cycles. From there, between conception and financial autonomy, and we kept going back to the same cycles. Oh yes, okay, biological or memory cycles. Sister, with the passage in the same tones every time. And that helped me a lot, because it allows me to calm my person too, by saying to myself, well, that's what's going on, well, come on, it's not a big deal. It's easier for me, on the contrary, to become unbearable my person. I feel more like I'm more more autonomous, less identified. Sister, yes. Finally, to be less angry with myself. To experience it more easily. What you are expressing here now shows you in a truthful way that you are not that person and that you are simply the observer. You are no longer fooled by your character, as the testimony of the previous question shows, you see this. And here too, at this level, as I said and as I answered earlier, it is the same answer. This is precisely what relaxes us, what makes us flexible in the idea of believing we are a person. In short, from everywhere, even without knowing anything about agape, the absolute or anything else. You are more and more often in the observer and the observation of this puppet character, subjected, as you said, to cycles, subjected to events in which the observer is not for nothing. The spectator of the theater stage, to use the 2012 terminology, it would not come to the spectator's mind to step onto the theater stage. You're the spectator observer, who sees the actor who plays more or less well, but that's how the illusory identification with the meat bag or the puppet character ends, to take the words of the elders. It's a game, morbidly so, but it had to be morbid, it had to get tired of you in order to finish the game. That's what's happening. You're all observers, whether you like it or not, whether you know it or not, there is a new form of collective lucidity even if it is not yet accepted. You're the spectator of your life and not the actor even if you still believe it. Everything is going on without you, as you wrote it, as you can see today. That's why I insisted when you say I was sleeping to ask you who said I was sleeping, and even in the second part, it's exactly the same thing. You see, you can only laugh at that. Sister. And now I feel something in my throat. The throat is a place of passage. For many years, for those who have followed the interveners, there have been countless passages through the gorge. Indeed, there are many of you during all these years, even without having any real pathologies on what you call the laryngeal chakra, to feel something. The passage is being made. You're in disidentification of the actor and this, in a total and collective way, which raises questions, and in the ignorant circles of the truth, it raises a question. This is what you have seen emerge in recent years, and especially in the last 2 years, on what you call a paradigm shift and all these pretty words you have invented. But I would remind you that, through these words, the paradigm shift is real. It doesn't matter if these circles are still planning a future. It is enough to see or accept a change, and even to believe in a new paradigm will not change anything about the disappearance of the worlds. There is no mistake, it is a collective step. Sister, I did not understand the word passage. You go from one point to another, it means you pass from there to there. The throat is the place of passage, of speech, of food, of air, but also of the embryo called spiritual. The first birth in matter is made by the passage of the uterus, the exit of illusion collectively is made by the passage of the throat. Sister, okay, I understand. Once the passage is made, you can exit, as in your case, by the big toe, and just behind it, it is the burning of the heart, the combustion. Sister, that, for the moment, I haven't felt it yet. I just said, it's right behind you. Sister, well, I'm on the right path. Yes, there is no way. It's already there. It's just an emerging issue. Do not imagine that there is any displacement, any effort, it is just an emergence, a form, I have no better word, no awareness of what has always been there. Within the illusion there is the impression of a movement, a path or a passage. It is the game of illusion. It's in progress. And I have already said it, on many occasions, during all these years, once the observer is lived, he loosens the bonds and beliefs in a person, in history, in karma, and makes you available for the truth, which puts an end, thereto, to the observer, to the witness. There will only remain joy. Whatever calls the fire of the Sacred Heart. Yes, you can say that you are on the right path, but you still have to understand that there has never been a path. Sister. Yeah. Understanding and living is ongoing. Release all intention, forget all will, you're the path, you're the truth, and you are the life. Sister, thank you. Thank you to you. Sister, there is a question. Brother, hello Bidi, thank you. The first testimony was this morning, when I went to take a bath in the river. It was a great resonance with the water. Would it be advisable for those present to take a bath in the water? Generalized laughter. You will ask, I think it is Faham who comes to see you, to come and see you in the pool, if you want. The power of water has been widely explained by the cetacean people, their role in the dream and in the awakening. Cetaceans have told you that all the waters of the earth, not only the waters of the earth, but also the waters from above and the waters that fall from the sky, the rain, are carriers of zero-time information. I remind you that this bag of meat is much more like a bag of water, and the waters resonate between them, and the water of the body is the bearer of the good news. I think our sister, who spoke at the beginning, spoke well of this kind of cellular boiling. Vibration, what you call vibration, perception, energy is directly related to water in cells as well as outside cells, and moreover in the there's in the Chinese, energy is what is it? Simply water that circulates. Today the waters are all carriers of zero-time and good news. That is why cetaceans and others have insisted so much on the virtues of water, in awakening, through the recognition of yourself. But I will let Faham express this, but understand that what you call energy, perception and vibration is transmitted, of course you know it, in physics, by the air, but today especially by the water, by the resonance of the water, of all the waters, and your testimony, like countless others that have already taken place, confirms this. Water is the first crystal of creation, from the first dream, from the first illusion, mirror water, fertile water, water that supports life and manifestation of life. Water is nothing more than condensed fire. There is just a difference in form and effect within the illusion, but water and fire are the same thing. They have the same constituents and, moreover, the fuel of fire, as you know, is the oxygen in the water and the hydrogen that causes the combustion of the burning water. You're a bag of water, but also a bag of bones. Laughs in the room. And this water is sacred, water from above as well as water from below. And besides, I think you have an expression, which in French is called a divi, water of life. Laughs. And look at a simple word, with your modern means of communication. When you pick up a telephone receiver and it's not just a play on words, what do you say? Hello. To the water. Laughs. That's what I think you call the language of birds. That's why today we told you all, hello, to go to the water. The room rehearses with water. Generalized laughter. It's quite a theater scene, isn't it? Thank you very much. Brother, thank you too. Brother, one more question. You say that we don't need to do anything. The light, the zero time will do everything, but sometimes with beating with a stick and suffering. Wouldn't it be interesting to recommend Kriya Yoga? What? Sister, Kriya. For the body. But you can use anything you want. It all depends on your objective. If you practice yoga to free yourself, it is useless. It is an illusion. But of course, you can use yoga simply to feel good in this body. But do not attribute to it virtues of liberation. Whether in Kriya Yoga or Kundalini Yoga, only strengthen the person, will never free you. But today, it's different, since the body-spirit bonds are loosened. It is not forbidden to do good in the midst of illusion anyway. But don't be fooled by the intention. If you believe that yoga or a repetitive practice will free you, you're wrong. On the other hand, you have every right, and in some cases even a duty, to take care of this body and this ephemeral, not to find a way out, but at least to be comfortable. It is the intention that prevails. If your intention is to free yourself through Kriya Yoga, you will never succeed. It is impossible. On the other hand, if the intention of this yoga is to make you feel better within the person, then I answer yes. It is not a problem of practices, or not to practice, it is not to have illusions about the purpose of a so-called spiritual practice. No practice can free you. But if you rely, for example, on the light to repair a fracture, you can wait a long time. That's never gonna happen. In that case, what are you doing? It's no use giving a gape, or repeating a gape. You're going to see a doctor or a surgeon. It is the intention that prevails. If you start with the idea that any practice, whatever it may be, will lead you to freedom, it is a lie. On the other hand, if you assume and intend that this practice will alleviate the person and simply that, then there is no risk. Be free, but do not induce purposes or goals that cannot be achieved. Do you see the difference? It is the inner attitude, and I would say the goal, admit it or not, that makes the difference. When I was incarnate, I never said that yoga was useless or that meditation was useless. I was simply saying that it was of no use in living the truth. On the contrary, but it is not forbidden to do good on the actor, on the character. You have to be attentive to the dream, let it happen, that's what it means to stay calm, but on the other hand, nothing prevents you from taking care of it. You may know that this body is a dream or a nightmare, but if you don't drink water, it will die. The goal is not to die, it is to discover the truth. Death will be lived without any problems, without any fear. You can't stop the collective dream. On the other hand, put an end to your individual dream and the good news will spread, through water, through your presence, through your silence. The mistake was to believe that spirituality, energy, yogas, psychology or introspection would free you. It is impossible. But it is not forbidden to feel good, but do not put a goal that is not true. Only sacrifice lets the truth emerge, but do not neglect this body. It is not because you are not this body that you must neglect it, it is a vehicle. Make this vehicle work and life unfolds on its own. But if you think that any practice will free you, it is not true. I think that's why Eber called it the practice without practice. When we use the practical word, it joins an asceticism. When you do yoga, you do it every week. When you do the practice without practice, Eber explained it to you, it is done automatically afterwards. You simply create physical, gestural and intellectual conditions that are conducive to, until it becomes natural, totally, without even this practice without practice, without the need for energy, word or communication. It is the presence that is active. It is when there is no one, when your consciousness relocates from identification with the body, that you become aware that you are space, that you are, for example, in a gape, neither the one who emits nor the one who receives, but what is in between, space, the space that finds the ether by the adamantine particles and that also transmits the good news. Water resonates with the air and it manifests itself on the earth element, that is, in the materiality of this body, you know. Anything else? Sister, there is a question. Thank you. Sister, I decided to ask this question because, many times, I was enlightened by questions about the texts. So sometimes I feel a void, nothingness. It's not a depression, it's a void, and, suddenly, I come back and go back to normal. Is it a transmutation to somewhere? You have to empty yourself to fill up, so yes. This feeling of emptiness and return to normal is the way you empty yourself to fill yourself with the truth. The bag of meat, the bag of water, has become a bag of light, but it is only a bag. You are not the bag, whatever it is, sacred, of meat, water or light, your intelligence, you're everywhere. You have to empty yourself of what is going on in order to discover and live that you are not the consciousness. That consciousness is a disease, a total disease, but fortunately it is a fatal disease. That is what you are living now. See? See? Do you understand? Sister, yes. So have a good emptying. Laughs. Or draining, it's the same. The wastewater is drained to be filled with the water of life first, in order to understand that you no longer need to say hello, because there is no one on the other side. It's all here. And the bag of light is whatever called the white paradise, a prerequisite for the black hole of the absolute. It happens in cells, in consciousness and in galaxies. Your scientists know that. They're appalled, but they're watching it right now. It is the shock of humanity. Even before the event visible to all and experienced by all, it is exactly that. The white paradise prior to the absolute, the junction of being, white paradise, with non-being. You're at the junction, hence the joy, hence what has been called the abode of supreme peace lived by the mystics. Everything is coherent, but totally illogical for those who believe they're a person or a story. But this is how the truth emerges for all worlds, and not only on this earth. There are no worlds, but you have to live it. That's what you're going through. And these kinds of oscillations between the agape experience and the kinds of resurgences of the person, who often makes you feel suffering somewhere, but it is precisely this game of suffering and love that sets the truth in motion. I would say that any means is good. That's what you rode to end up dreaming and waking up from the nightmare. Thank you very much. Sister, I have a written question. Let's go. Sister, in French. I'll translate it first into Portuguese. All right. Sister, translating into Portuguese. Oh, you speak French, excuse me, I thought it was Portuguese again. Sister, no, I still speak Portuguese. Sorry, I thought it was French. Sister, no. Oh, well. Sister, it's Latin, but it's not the same anyway. All right. Sister, these are the remains of, then continuing in Portuguese. Laughs. You tell me you speak Portuguese, but that's French. Laughs. Sister, no, then continuing in Portuguese. So I sang French now. I come out of the shower serene and quiet, and suddenly a huge wave of pain and love thinking of you Bidi. gratitude that you're here, and an unbearable feeling of disconnection. I cry, and I see that it's nothing personal. They are just remnants of rebirth with the suffering of separation, a call to unity I hear. I mean, accompany humanity to the end in love and tears. The suffering is beginning to be accepted, and I am superimposed with joy. And behind all this quiet white void of never having existed, I feel I have to testify. It's the passage through the throat. Thank you, Bidi. Thank you, Eba. Thank you very much. It is very clear. It totally illustrates what I explained in this kind of bizarre position of agape and the ultimate suffering. In French, I think there is an expression that says Jean qui rit, Jean qui pleure, Jean who smile, Jean who cries. That's exactly what it is. And it can only lead to a big burst of laughter. You have all seen children crying, screaming and laughing at the same time. It is not a confusion of emotion or manifestation, simply that in the innocence of childhood, laughter and tears are the same thing. As an adult, we had forgotten about it. Because we have to be serious, because we have to play our part in society, in the family, in social and moral conventions, in habits. That is why it has often been spoken of the path of childhood and innocence. That is why I also said when I was incarnate, and even in 2012 and beyond, that the only effort you had to make at that time, not now, was to try to remind yourself, to bring up not memories, but the state, the feeling you had at 2 or 3 years old, because before 2 or 3 years old, there is no individuality. What creates individuality is naming. It is the moment when the young child understands that he is the name given to him, and that he becomes aware, when the fontanelles are closed, that he is an individual. From the very first months of life, parents, through their adult behavior, unintentionally create this pseudo-individuality. In other words, a child born and living only with children, if possible, would have no identification or individuality. It is therefore education, the fact of raising a child in a given environment, that will induce this feeling of believing oneself to be an individual. Nothing more than that. Education, both parental and academic, is nothing more than confinement. If today, for example, it is too late, but it is a guess, if children were raised not by biological parents, but according to the laws of freedom, the child would remain free, even as he or she grows up. We must accept that education, affiliation, family ties, even the most harmonious ones, are just another form of confinement that perpetuates confinement. A child is born free, no matter how locked up the world is. But of course, he will immerse himself in consciousness and in the cells of this environment. That's how the veil of oblivion was laid on him at the age of 2 and 3. That's why I was saying that it's important to remember, not the past, but the state of mind and conscience in which you were 2 or 3 years old at the most. Not to relive memories, but to remember the state of childhood and innocence, that the stars and some of the stars have asked you to try to find. Silence. Sister, one more question. If you need to rest your ears, you tell me. Laughs. Sister, I heard that the newly born children will remain free. Yes, for all those who are not soulless. We must not believe that you have only beings of light who incarnate, what you call I believe that children indigo, crystal, diamond and others. You also have countless soulless births. I can't remember the expression the commander used at the time, sister. Organic portal. That's it. But yes, real children come to the show. Many beings who have never been incarnated on this dimensional level, in this dream, incarnate today to live the spectacle, not for a mission, but to live this through this body. Just as all universes, all dimensions, are now in this solar system, as close to the Earth as possible. Sister, these children who were born free, are they from Van Allen's belt? From what? Sister, since Van Allen's belt no longer exists. There were some before. You had people working on the children. You may have heard about these children, indigo, crystal, diamond, for more than 20 years now. This is not new. Simply as I have said so far, the conditioning of education or environmental conditioning put an end to this freedom. Given the profusion of light, adamantine particles, and zero-time information, it will become very difficult to keep children in the illusion. You have countless young children who are 2 years old and who deliver messages to you. Your media and your technical means of images provide you with countless testimonies from children who tell you that Eba is there, and who speak of the absolute, of the dream. They have no intellect, they have no points of comparison, but they are telling the truth. Because the truth is simply accessible. And since they have no astral body, no mental body, no acclimatization to this world for 3 years, more and more of them are expressing themselves on the dream, on the absolute, and on the coming of Eba. But you are all Eba. So yes, there is something going on at that level. Just as in organizations, of any kind, as I said earlier, there is a kind of paradigm shift, an opening to the unknown, because we really shouldn't want to see all the environmental changes that are taking place on the theater stage right now. So evidently at the collective level, I would say that in the logical succession given by Sri Aurobindo, it is as if there were a kind of negotiation that was the first stage of the shock. There can no longer be denial, there can be a lot of anger, and you see it everywhere on earth. But overall, there is a kind of negotiation of consciousness itself, which hopes, which believes it will continue through a paradigm shift, and all those words you use. Disrupting, disruption, collapse, extinction phenomenon. And of course, the consciousness can only project itself into an afterlife, not having yet seen that it is its own killing. In short, it means that no consciousness, of any dimension whatsoever, can oppose igneous fire, cosmic fire. You're experiencing it right now. And as has been said, let the dreamers dream of some kind of future, it doesn't matter. Why? Why? Because even the questioning and projection of consciousness into the future, even if it is false, creates an openness, creates receptivity, to what is new, even if there will never be any new. But the important thing is the dynamics, this kind of openness to this unknown, even if there is projection. It is a posture of organizations that allows us to infuse the truth into it, since it is these organizations themselves that accept this paradigm shift, and that create within organizations of any kind, a kind of openness that will allow us to accept the shock with great bursts of laughter. It's happening right now from everywhere. Let them develop plans for the new paradigm, it keeps them busy, but most importantly it opens them to the truth. It makes them more flexible, they are less rigid, they are in demand for something new. And it creates an embrace. And organizations of any kind, in the end, at all levels, entrepreneurial, governments, all groups, create an expectation, and I would say today that this expectation creates conditions favorable to agape, not only at the level of individuals. But there's no need to tell them that it's the end of consciousness. The important thing is that the collective consciousness of these organizations, these groups, is tense and open to newness, which simply means that they are no longer attached to their certainties or possessions, or to their rules, but they are available for the unknown. There is no point in telling them that it is the end of time and that it is the end of the myth of creation. They are not yet ready for these words, but they are in the disposition of consciousness, that we have named acceptance, and acceptance for the individual. It's surprising, isn't it, and yet it's the truth. The fruit is ripe, all you have to do is pick it. Even those who do not suspect for a second that this paradigm shift is the end of the dream of creation. But it creates a dynamic, an openness, and also an acceptance. They are no longer focused on the achievements and the past. They are still looking to a future that will never come, but it opens their consciousness, as I said, to change. Do not tell them that there is no change or that it is over, at the level of these organizations whatever they are, but take advantage of this gap, this crack to let the presence install itself even within the groups and organizations. It is not a lie, but for the person's point of view or the point of view of a group, a paradigm shift is enough. It simply means that they are ready to let go of what they have learned, what they have, and that they are ready to change the way they work. And it is enough to create acceptance. It is enough to free us from the weight of the past, from conditioning. The fruit is ripe. Everything is only a pretext, whether in the paradigm shift, and even in wars, and even in the violence you see everywhere, to get out of the nightmare. So let organizations think that this is a paradigm shift with something to come, since there is nothing to come. There is just the light and the truth. But once again, it allows them to embrace the new. That's what's important. It is the disposition of the consciousness, no longer individual, but of groups, and then of the whole earth. The more events will become stronger. I am talking about climatic events, social events, economic events. The collective consciousness, or collective unconscious, is profoundly transformed. This is the plan of the light. And of course, these groups, of whatever nature, are looking for solutions. At the group level, it is not the same as an individual. For an individual, we have always said that we should stop looking. But in organized groups, and especially in the most material circles, they are much closer than religions or pseudo-spiritual movements to the paradigm shift. Everything is perfectly in place. See? See? And you will see it more and more clearly, even at the level of suffering on a testimony we have had. This is exactly what had been explained, not only in the face-to-face, but also in the superposition, in the crossing, and in the dissolution. Everything has been written. Everything has been played out. Everything has been lived. At the initial moment. This is what you experience at all levels. Only those who are in groups arched into the past, into historical data, and in particular religious, spiritual or other groups, are there any denial, but no longer at all in civil society. You can see that. This is very important. Anything else? Who wants to talk? Sister. Yes, can I make a suggestion, Bidi? This theme you've raised now is very important. I would like to know if we can make a 10 to 15 minute stop, to stretch our legs a little, and then we'll continue. So Bidi says, see you later. Rest your ears well. Laughs. All together, thank you. Obrigado. I'll see you later. Through Jean-Luc Young. The Transformations. Translation into English. LMF.